So we are on the cusp of the holiday season. I'm from the South, and you don't have Christmas or Thanksgiving without gravy. I tend to make gravy without oil, and people thought, oh, you can't make gravy without oil. Well, actually, yes, you can. All you need to do is to warm up your flour. I always use whole wheat flour. This happens to be white whole wheat flour. And the ratio is 3 tablespoons of whole wheat flour to 2 cups of liquid. Now that liquid can be anything. Down south we make our gravy from milk, right? Or it might be, you know, some other kind of vegetable broth. You can do it from plain water as well. So for the purposes of tonight, we are going to use a cashew milk because that's actually how I make it in my house. So I'm making it for you tonight, how I make it for my family. So I put in the flour, and I'm just going to warm it up here on the stove a little bit. I don't want to darken it, I just want to warm it, right? I'm not actually trying to cook it here, I'm trying to warm it up. Now earlier I put in 2 handfuls of cashews. That's probably about half a cup. And I use regular, plain, old-fashioned raw cashews, not the stuff that comes in a little blue container, right? Now when you're working with cashews, raw cashews in particular, you want to wash them, okay? You want to wash them. So literally all I did was put the cashews and water into this blender and blend it. Now when you're doing that, you want to blend it until it is smooth. It'll take about 2 minutes for the cashews to get creamy. You want to test them because you don't ever want it to be gritty. I'm going to add 2 more cups in here. There you go. So this is just going to cook here on the stove, and it's going to thicken up. In fact, it's already thickened up. And make gravy. And you can season that gravy however you like to. Thanksgiving, I typically use sage, little thyme, some salt. Some people use Bell seasoning. Bell seems to be a big thing here when you're making your stuffings and all that kind of good stuff. So I thicken it right up, and that's your gravy. One of the recipes that we're going to prepare calls for ketchup. And since there's at least 4 or 5 folks who've asked me for ketchup recipe, I thought, well, we'll just do it tonight and you'll see how it's done. So I use just regular diced tomatoes. You're going to use 1.5 cups of diced tomatoes. You're going to pour that right in.
Do you drain the juice?
No, you don't.
Diced tomato juice not.
Yeah, you put the whole thing in. You are going to get some apple juice concentrate. I like to not use sugar if I can for sweetening. You can use dates. Simply soften them in some hot water. Dates are amazing sweeteners. I sweeten untold amounts of things with dates. When I make apple crisp, there's no sugar in my apple crisp. It's 4 dates that have been softened and whizzed up, and that becomes a sweetener. I put it in all sorts of things. Great source of sweetener, also has some fiber in there, some nutritional value, whereas your white table sugar, what kind of nutritional value does it have?
0.
It's got nothing. All it's going to do is run up your blood sugar, right? So at least the dates, it has this sweetening effect, but it has some nutritional value as well. During the holiday season, we're all going to have our special foods. We know we are. Enjoy them. But if we can add some nutrition to them, well, that's a great thing, right? You'll put in an onion, tomato paste, celery salt, rosemary, bay leaf, basil salt, and your lemon juice. If I have fresh lemon, I prefer to use that. If I don't, then I usually keep a bottle of lemon juice in my refrigerator. So we're just going to whiz this right up. Hang on your ear holes. So there's your ketchup. The next thing that we are going to talk about are meatballs. How many of you like meatballs? Yay, most people do. And I will tell you, when I transitioned from a meat-based diet to a vegetarian diet, I thought, oh no, I'm going to miss my dad's meatballs. And I did, honestly, for quite some time. And then I happened upon this recipe, and I have fooled numerous people with these meatballs. So I'm sharing them with you tonight. The meatballs themselves aren't that bad. Well, they're not bad. The sauce is rich. And you'll notice on your recipe sheet, I specifically said, I don't remember the exact verbiage that I used, but I said this is special occasion food, not something that you want to eat regularly, okay? So, very important. Got it? All right. So here we go. This is a barbecue sauce that I use on the meatballs. Now, it calls for olive oil. I usually skip it. I will put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of the pan so that the onions don't burn. But I don't use the full amount of olive oil at all. It calls for chopped onion, 1 cup of ketchup, and you can use store-bought ketchup. French's has one, Heinz has one, but if you're using store-bought ketchup, you want to make sure you're getting one that does not have high fructose corn syrup in it. And the reason I make my own ketchup most of the time is because I don't like the vinegar that is in regular store-bought ketchup. And you'll notice that the ketchup we made tonight has no vinegar in it. And if you recall, for those of you who were here back in September, when Dr. Mazzoni talked with us, he talked with us about the effect and some of the things that vinegar can do, how it can inhibit the body from absorbing certain things, can affect the microbiome in your gut. That's one of 1,000 different reasons that I tend to shy away from vinegar. But if you're going to use an over-the-counter or store-bought ketchup, please try to find one that does not have high fructose corn syrup. And most of your major brands are now making them because more and more has come out about high fructose corn syrup, and more people are choosing to abstain from that, and so you can find it. So you'll use the ketchup. It says half a cup of brown sugar. Again, I usually use dates for that, but I will use a big old handful of dates. All right, because when you eat your barbecue sauce, usually that's something you can taste the sweet. And then to add the smoky flavor to it, I added a smidgen of, where is it? A smidgen of liquid smoke. So about 3 shakes of liquid smoke. Okay, again, it's not something you want to use a lot of, but on a special occasion, twice a year, you have permission. So you simply put that in a pot, and that's your sauce. So the next thing, the big thing that we're going to do is the meatballs. Now these meatballs are easy to make. They are easy to freeze, and they can be used in a variety of things. So you think about the places that you use meatballs. People like meatball subs. They like meatballs on their spaghetti. Obviously, meatballs in a sauce, frequently in a barbecue sauce. But anywhere that you would typically use regular meatballs, you can use this. And these freeze amazingly well. Many meatball recipes, even vegetarian meatball recipes, call for egg. So this is truly flax seeds that I put in a coffee grinder and ground. Your flax seeds are really good for you. They're a rich source of omega fats, a rich source of fiber. So flax seed when it is warmed with water, takes on a gelatinous consistency, much like egg. And that then becomes your binder. So about 1/4 cup. And then water. Now, if you're going to be doing a lot of cooking, you can actually make a fair bit of this up and stick it in your refrigerator, you know, for a couple days. You're not cooking it, you're warming it up. The heat causes it to get gelatinous. If I were to let it sit out on the countertop, it would do the same thing, but it would just take a long time. I'm going to call it good for the sake of time. The next thing that I'm going to get is 1.5 cups of either cracker crumbs or breadcrumbs. Then you have a choice on what to use. Tonight, I'm putting in cooked brown rice. Brown rice that I soaked, poured the water off, soaked again, poured the water off, and then cooked. And the reason that I did that is the studies are coming out, some of you are already aware of this, expressing concern around the amount of arsenic that is in rice. For this recipe, you're going to use 3 cups of something that has texture. So for the purposes of tonight, it's brown rice. But it could be a mixture of rice, and maybe you have some leftover cooked beans in the fridge. Black beans, pinto beans, red kidney beans are really good. It could be cooked barley. Any kind of grain is going to work in this recipe. Yes, ma'am?
Quinoa work or tamarind?
Quinoa probably doesn't have enough texture to it. It might play with it and try.
Gluten-free grain.
Yep, yeah. You could definitely try it. You would need to make sure there's plenty of it. But yeah, you definitely could. And I do prefer to use grain that has cooled as opposed to grain that is freshly cooked because of the moisture content. You get a firmer meatball when the grain has been allowed to cool. This has not been refrigerated. The next thing you're going to add to it is an onion. Now, when I buy onions at Hannaford, this is what I get. This is not an onion. This is like an appetizer.
That's an onion.
This is an onion. Just saying, okay? See the difference? So keep that in mind in this recipe. You know, the more onion you got, the better everything is. Same with garlic. The more garlic, the better it is. So if this was the only onion that I had, I'd be using 2 or 3 of them. All right? I like those big onions. You know you got something in your hand. So you put your onion in. It does call for 3 tablespoons of olive oil or applesauce. Okay, I used applesauce for the meatballs that I made for you tonight. Now, if you're using applesauce, it is going to affect slightly the texture of your meatball. So you'll end up having to bake it a little bit longer. Okay. Let's see, where are we? Pecan meal. Okay. So we made our flaxseed. We've got our cracker crumbs, and we want to use a whole grain cracker. We've got our grain, our cooked grain, and I have put in, like I said, leftover beans. Leftover black beans are really good in this. Leftover pinto beans. The pinto bean's kind of big, so I do sort of smash that one just a smidgen. It's a big bean. You know, a few of us want to bite into a meatball that's just a big bean. So you might want to squish that a little bit. But those are really nice. when you're making this. We've got our onion, we've got our applesauce with pecan meal for garlic salt. So I usually use, this calls for 1.5 teaspoons of garlic salt. So I'll use 1 teaspoon of garlic and 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. So you're just going to mix that up. Now at this point, you can add a little liquid smoke if you want to. You do not have to. I only add liquid smoke to the meatballs if I'm going to put the barbecue sauce on it. But if I don't put the barbecue sauce on it, then I usually don't add the liquid smoke. So this is my base. Now I am simply going to add my flaxseed. Now see how gelatinous, doesn't that look gross? But see how gelatinous it is? That then is going to be my binder. That's taking the place of eggs. So instead of giving me cholesterol, this is giving me fiber. And it's giving me some great omega fats. Now I'm going to do what I typically do at home too. This doesn't go so well with a spoon. You just get your hands in there and you work it. You work that in, and then what you're going to do, or at least what I do, is I use a cookie scooper to make my balls with so that they're uniform. So I just use this. I'll have my cookie sheet. I do put oil on the bottom of my cookie sheet, oil, but a silk hat will work great for this as well, and that way you avoid the additional fat. So you scoop it, and there's your ball, and then you just bake it. It bakes at about 325 for about 20 minutes, and then you turn it over, okay? And it will retain its shape, and it will come out with a tasty meatball. There's your meatball. How many does this recipe take? Depends on the size of your scooper, but I will get anywhere from 50 to 75 balls. And the recipe for the sauce will go over 1 batch. And last but not least are Olive-Walnut Patties. Now these are really, really, really easy, and these also freeze incredibly well, like incredibly well. You can use these as a burger, so like in the place of a hamburger, or as a sandwich filling. You can use them, say, in a casserole dish and pour gravy on top of it and bake that. So for this one, it calls for pitted green olives, and that is not what I used, because they didn't have any in our grocery store. They had black olives, but they were out of, I like the Lindsay green olives. I don't know why, I just do. We got black olives, and that's fine. So what you're going to do, and I've got my blender full of ketchup, so I can't actually do this for you. You're going to pour your olives into the blender, okay? And then you need your liquid. So for the liquid, you need 2 cups of liquid. What I do is I use the liquid from the olives, and then I add water to make up the 2 cups. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's what you're doing with that. And then you're going to use your walnuts. I ran out of my farm-based walnuts, so I got a big bag from Sam's, and that works. So you're going to put your walnuts into your blender with your olives and your olive juice and water mixture. Okay, and you're going to whiz that up just like we did the cashews, okay, until they're creamy. All right? And once you do that, you'll just sit it aside, and it calls for 2½ cups of old-fashioned oats, a chopped onion, either tamari sauce or Bragg's aminos, which is here. And then all of your Thanksgiving seasonings, marjoram and sage and thyme and garlic powder, all of those kinds of things. And you're going to mix it up just like you did your meatballs. Okay? Except that one is a little bit easier to use a spoon with. And then you're going to take a third of a cup measuring cup, and you're going to scoop it. If this was your batter, you're going to scoop it, and you'll put it on your cookie sheet, okay? And you're just going to flatten it right down, and it's going to become a patty. Got it? And then that's going to bake. I think I said 20 minutes, yeah. 20 minutes on each side. So you may find that in your oven, you may need to bake these maybe 25 minutes on each side. Every oven is a little bit different. But you're going to come out with a patty, and they are really, really tasty. And they are incredibly easy keepers in terms of keeping in your refrigerator. So when you want something that's savory, just pop it out, warm it up. I have taken them out of the freezer and just warmed them, in a pan on my oven, on my stove top, and eaten them, with a side of potato and vegetables and salad. So this would be, like what many of us would consider the meat.